thought I fixed it where anybody could come into the room without me having to do that dogged waiting.
There's 2 people in the waiting room. 3.
Sorry.
My mouse is gonna act funny all night, Bonnie, so you have to help me if I say.
This is there's 4 in there now.
Participants.
Yeah.
Allow those participants in. Bonnie, I thought I fixed it where they could in and come in at any time.
I'll just keep an eye on it.
I just kind of keep it out. If you don't care, I'll try to watch it too. Somebody helps me keep an eye on it on the side there. And I'll start whenever Derek gets ready, Mr. Chairman. I'll
Wait for him, right?
wait too. That's fine. We can
Yeah.
wait.
Roll call.
Do you want a copy?
I'm gonna check. I'm gonna check and see on some numbers here while we're. I didn't have a report today from the high school, but we were down, so we were heading back the right direction there. There was a parent-teacher conference at the high school.
Elementary.
I mean, at the elementary schools tonight, and the high school Thursday night. So. Correct. And then tomorrow, and then Thursday night is the high school. This was our rescheduled one from snow day number 7 and snow day number 9.
Last one.
We have one day left that we can scrutinize, and we'll see
Spring breaks next week.
next week.
Do we have an update on one of these?
Just the one he gave us last week.
Yeah, I give you one a while back, but yes, I can get you one.
I don't,
Is
Absolutely.
it on? Is it on the
Spreadsheet.
file? But yeah, okay.
I don't know what date this one is. We just got
I
this.
don't, that's what I was looking for before. I don't see any dates.
No, but are your numbers the same? No.
August,
I'll get you a new one.
This
We'll get you a
one's
new
more
one.
updated.
September.
Yeah, we'll get you a new one. There, Lisa's got that, so
So
Lisa checks in, we'll make her aware of that. I'll put that down, Wade is on my to-do list, so I'll have you one by the meeting on Thursday.
on this one, I was kind of concerned that it might be like 170 short.
This one's January.
We're thinking around 140-ish is what Bonnie and I were looking at.
We've had
Okay.
several to return
So
this
we've
week.
had several come back.
This last one's January that we
That's
got.
good. 25th. I don't think that was summer.
Are you with this one?
I've got another one in there, wait, I think I can do it for you, so. But I'll get you one that's more, we need to do one anyway, it's March.
I
we need to do another one.
You'll get it.
See Mike Jennings there also.
Is
So
that-
that's good. Hello, Mike. We'll get to you that stuff in a few minutes, so.
Hey, Mr. Director,
All right, can you hear me okay, Mike?
I can. I'll mute myself till you need me.
Okay, thanks, sir. Appreciate you being there. Those that don't know that is our board attorney, Mr. Michael Jennings. Hello, Derek. How you doing, man? Sunday.
All right, you ready, Ron?
I'm ready, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Director, could we have a roll call?
Okay, on the roll call, we'll do, of course, on Thursday night. You do have a quorum here tonight. Mr. Fan sends his regrets. Aletha is out of town, and so you do have a quorum, so we're rolling.
First on the agenda is approve agenda.
Okay, you can see that, the agenda, and the chairman went over this agenda, and looks like we got everything in order. Teresa always goes over it too, just fine tooth comb, just to make sure we got everything that you need for your packets.
Number 2 is consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman,
A and B.
you've got your minutes from the last meeting of the board on February 11th, and you've got another one, February 22nd. So at your meeting, you will approve both. When you approve the consent agenda, you'll approve both the February 11th meeting and the recess meeting on February 22nd.
Still no bus trip.
Yeah, no bus trip, still no bus trip. So we thought it was going to have one or two, but we did not.
Next up is safety report.
Hey, Ms. Bonnie.
Just a couple of things. We have gone through and checked all our AED batteries. They're ready to be refreshed. So we have that money in the safety grant and we're purchasing those. They're out in May. So so that's been done. I'm still talking with the SROs about getting with Sheriff Darrell Young to pay for them to go to SRO training this summer. And so that's still, we're still in discussions over that, but I think that will happen. Other than that, we did join a service. It's actually not a service. It's a app called Purposity, so that when we get 200 followers, we're going to be able to put needs of families on this app within the community for people to see, and they will be able to help families in need, shoes, clothing, school supplies, maybe even electricity when their lights have been cut off, whatever the community wants to give, an individual wants to give. So it's a service app. Coffee County's using it widely. Nashville, Davidson County, I believe, using it, several districts across the state. I'm excited about being a participant with that project because it's almost an extension of We Care Cannon. I did a home visit today and it's needed. I'm just telling you, it's just needed. So it's just another source of getting our families help in our community. And that's what we need to do. We need to support each other, especially right now. A lot of people out of work.
So how's that? Do they post money on a site?
No, what you do is you have to have, again, 200 followers before we can launch. You download the app. The schools are supposed to be putting that on social media so you can get the little QR code and download your app. You just follow like you would on Facebook or whatever. And once we start posting needs, it'll be a generic post. It will not give names or anything identifying. There's only 2 people that can post, Corey Steffes, our counselor at Woodland, and myself. But anybody within the school system can give us a need that they're aware of. Right now, that's what we're doing. We're not going out and asking the community. We're just doing within the school to get started. Once that goes live, it'll be seen across the United States because Purposity goes across the United States, but also within our community. So let's say that Miss Kathy sees that a little girl needs a pair of shoes. She can click that she will fulfill the need. She can either use Venmo, PayPal, or even have the link to Amazon because we can actually order the shoe, not order it, but place the need through Amazon and they will fulfill it once she's paid for that. And it'll ship directly It's gonna ship here to begin with, just so that we can keep an eye on it. But then once it gets going, we can have it shipped to the school. So I've been in on webinars with this. I mean, school systems are really rocking this out and they're getting people help, real help. So I hope that we get our 200 followers. I think the last time I checked, it was like 75. So we got to keep spreading the message. So we don't have a lot of resources in Cannon County, but if we, I saw what We Care Cannon did with a telethon through the pandemic. So if we can, people have big hearts here in this county. So if they knew what our kids are actually going through, some of our families, I know that they'd be willing to help. So this is just another way to get people help. It's not a handout, it's a hand up.
And the First Lady of Tennessee is really
Yes.
pushing this through her office.
Mhm.
Is
And
one
you
thing.
can go online and Google it and you can see.
Yeah, I downloaded it
Yeah.
and did it.
So thank you. That's all I
If you'll
have.
download that app, that's, Bonnie, give that address again.
Proposity, PURPOSITY
That's what it looks like.
.com.
Proposity.com if you're listening tonight, you're
Looks
watching
like
this
that.
at some point.
Just
You
go to the
download
App
the app?
Store. They have one for
Okay.
Android and they have one for Apple. As
I
well.
need to do that for both of my phones.
Yes, you do.
So thank you for reminding me to do
We're
that.
ready to go live. We have some needs ready to post. We can't go live because of course, they get money for sponsorship. It's a nonprofit, but they have to have money for operating costs. So you got to have 200 followers before you can go live. But we already have it. It's there waiting. So
But you said needs to pop up on here or on Facebook?
On that
it's
page,
going
on
to
the
pop
app.
up on that app.
On that?
And it'll be notifications. You can set it. It's like a Facebook, but it's not Facebook. It does not go through Facebook, but we're trying to use Facebook, the school's Facebook pages, to get people to know that this is real and it's not a scam and,
Have they posted it out? I haven't seen.
Well, I have
them yet.
On the
two
individual
principals
schools,
meetings,
so
I have pushed it out, but I know they've been very busy with tournaments and all that stuff. So
I saw it through your email.
I'm gonna keep,
The message, the drumbeat. will be
keep
drum.
beating the drum until it's out there.
They've got newsletters that are scheduled too.
Yes,
Need to be put
yes,
in there.
and they have they have the information. Mr. Corey made an awesome video, and you'll see that tomorrow in my Wonderful Wednesday message about Proposity. So he's my head cheerleader for it.
Okay, moving on, review of special education program.
I've asked Ms. Julie to be here tonight, Mr. Chairman, so she's just going to talk to you a little bit about our special education program. This is part of the TSBA calendar, and we've heard from the high school. The high school was also supposed to do it tonight, but we've already talked to them just a couple of meetings ago. And so this will be a monthly feature of one of the departments or whatever, so it happens to be special education's turn tonight. So I'll turn this over to Ms. Julie. Julie Vincent, Director, Supervisor of Special Education.
Just wanted to touch base, give you some numbers as far as the number of students that we're serving here in Cannon County. Currently, we have 287 students with disabilities that we're serving. Here, then the beginning of the year was 286. We dipped down, I think, with the whole virtual and coming to school, and so we lost some to homeschooling and they went to different counties. But now we're back up. We've had several to enroll over the past week or two.
How many of those are elementary?
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
sir.
how many is elementary versus house?
Oh, we had not at the high school. It's been there. There's been one at the high school, and I would say there's probably 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 at the elementary school. Not, it's a couple at Woodbury Grammar, one at Short Mountain, and
No, I'm talking about your totals.
oh, the breakdown of that too.
Yeah,
Oh, I don't have,
okay, that's all right.
I can get that for you.
I was just
I've got
curious.
their caseloads, so I
I
can
was just
add
curious how
those up
many
real
elementary
quick.
there were.
Elementary has the
Most.
big, yes. Mhm. Something else, since it's budget time, just to touch base, I do have two, part of my funding comes from GP, part of it comes from federal through IDEA. The general purpose, that's all got to be spent to keep my maintenance of effort. Through IDEA, the federal portion, I can have carryover. So I don't have to spend everything out of that budget. I can have some to carry over for the next year, because who knows what student may walk through with, with a certain disability. For example, we had, there's a student that possibly may need to go to out of county somewhere, and that's $120 per day. And then with a one-on-one on top of that, that's $19.50 per hour for that one-on-one. Yeah. So one student for a year would be almost $45,000.
And that's because we don't offer what their needs here.
Yeah, they have significant
Okay.
needs that they need a much more intensive program than what we have.
How much did you say?
About $45,000, $44,415 approximately, if a student has to go out of county.
You don't have any right now.
No, not right now. I will say there's, some that we are looking at to see what we might need to do for them for the next school year. So when we're talking about that, I do have some to carry over, but that's where that money would come from, would be to pay for those services. I have another student that's the one that has arrived, a new one that we have to get some equipment for, that has some physical needs. So that's where that money comes out, is that IDEA. But I wanted to kind of clarify that for when, because there is some that I do have carryover, but it's for those needs that that pop up, that we've got to have the money for.
And that can happen at any point.
At any
during the school
point.
year.
Yes, I mean, this sweet baby moved in just a week or so ago, so. Any questions that you all have for me? And if you do at any time, just holler at me. And if I don't have the answer, I'll find the answer for you.
And that's one area that cannot be cut. I'll put it that way, is, that's just one of those rules that you have as board members, where when we're doing budgetary things, especially as one that you don't, chairman he'll reemphasize that, but that's one of those areas where you don't, that we have to serve as the LOE, and one of those areas that you don't skimp or do anything with on that. Julie's done an exceptional job. She's been with us not only a year yet, it's been a whirlwind year to come in as a new supervisor, but an excellent job, great rapport with all the special education staff throughout the district.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the list is approved senior trip rules and itinerary. Trip IDs number 3968.
Mr. Chairman, you'll see in your packet, you have the senior trip itinerary, the senior trip rules of conduct. Also, a notice of liability concerning coronavirus, COVID-19, that's in this. That's a good indicator. And then you've got, for your viewing pleasure, your trip ID number 3968. This is what a bus trip looks like when you see them. And again, you only have to do those that are out of state or overnight is the ones that you have to approve. I approve all
They
of
only
those
have 50 students going to your trip.
all over. We'll talk about that. I'm gonna have them to unmute, and Mr. Jennings, let's see. Looking, Mr. Nichols was there. I see him
He's
there.
there. Jaren's
And-
there too.
And also Jaren Tenpenny is there.
Well,
So
Jaren was there. Where
I'm
did
going, well, he
There he
was.
is. There he is.
There he is. He's on the go, Mr. Tenpenny. So,
Sorry, I lost my connection. I was trying to get somewhere with better Wi-Fi. Can y'all hear me?
And so Mr. Nichols looks like he's traveling too there. So I will turn it over to these great gentlemen from County High School to talk about senior trip and what you have to approve there, or what you would like to approve. All right.
I'm just gonna turn this over to Mr. Tenpenny and let him kind of talk about the plan that Mr. Burks and Mr. Tenpenny have developed for our senior class this year.
Can you all hear me now? I apologize.
Very good, Jeremy.
Awesome. Thank you all. I'm sorry, I lost connection there for a few minutes on my end. I do apologize. So I'm not sure what all Mr. Nichols said, but just wanted to update you on a few things regarding the senior trip before you all approve the itinerary and the rules of conduct and those things on Thursday. Currently, we have 47 students signed up to attend the trip. And I feel pretty confident in the fact that we're going to have all 47 of those go. Today was our final turn-in day, and all but 4 students have turned in all their paperwork and all their money. And a couple of those are on quarantine right now. They're coming back at the end of the week, so they'll be getting that in. And then we just had a couple that were absent today. So I don't think that's any anomaly or them not going. I think just circumstances of the day kept them from being able to do that. I believe you all have a copy of the agenda for the trip. It is the agenda that we've had for the last several years. The first 2 days at Universal Studios, and then Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday in St. Augustine. We do a lot of touring in St. Augustine. Of course, it's a lot of historic places there to visit. Of course, I know we've got some of you, several of you new to the board since we went in the summer when we had to postpone last year's senior trip. But one of the things that we were able to do in the summer is reserve some restaurants once we got to St. Augustine that were just for us. So we were the only group in the restaurant. They kind of closed down a little early, and we've been able to do that again. So on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday night, for those dinners in St. Augustine, it should be us only at those restaurants. Students will be required to wear masks while we're at Universal Studios. That is their policy, that every guest wear a mask and have a temperature check before they enter the park. And that'll be both days they have to do that. And then, of course, anywhere in St. Augustine that would require mask temperature checks, we'll do that as well. The students do also have a COVID-19 kind of, I guess, waiver, for lack of a better term, that they have to sign, and their parents. And then we take their temperature before they get on the bus and record that. But other than that, if there's any questions that you all have about the trip, I'll be glad to answer those at this time.
Question, board members. I'm just glad they're getting to go. And I'm glad that you're allowing them to go. As the numbers continue to decline, we're very appreciative of hard work that's gone into planning this trip. And what you'll be voting on Thursday night will be to approve the senior trip itinerary, the senior trip rules of conduct, and approval for the board, and go to approve the actual trip itself.
Okay, any questions?
Florida's fully open right now, Jaron, so you are lucky that, very fortunate that they're full blast, full opening, ready to roll, I guess, aren't they, Jaron?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And again, I would reiterate Mr. Curtis's statement. We do very much appreciate the board and your support of this trip. We know it's something very special here in Cannon County, and we appreciate you all continuing to support that.
All right. One of the first trips I think they've approved on the bus trip there, Jaron. So, Mr. Nichols, thank you, sir. Appreciate y'all being there for our seniors, and everybody does a good job in getting this completed and done. Okay, anything else, board members? All right, thank y'all.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Chairman.
All right, moving on. Approved budget amendment to the 2021 general purpose school budget, amendment number 6.
This is amendment number 6. You can see that in your packet there, resolution. This has to do with the EESI. The commission approved the EESI earlier. Now we got the funding, and now the funding then will be spent accordingly. Douglas is doing that. It's got a special line item for that. You see there, 46530. energy efficient schools initiatives, and then you have an expenditure there from, on the capital outlay outline, 76,100,707. And right now, you have seen the results, or many of you have seen the results of the EESI, and that is new lighting at County High School and at the gymnasium. We had run into a little problem. They were changing out lights, and they recognized that our roofers had penetrated one of the conduits at the top of the Woodbury Grammar Gym. And so I'm just glad nobody was hurt when that drill went through that, in that conduit, into that electric line. So electricians have repaired that, and the roofing contractor will pay the electricians for that. And so we got that fixed, and was done in record time, really. And then that project, they're pretty well 90% finished with the indoor lighting. Has already been concluded at both Cannon County High School and Woodbury Grammar School. And that's the new LED lighting, and looks fabulous, by the way. I can show you some places here in this office that we've replaced old lighting with the new LED, and it's just tremendous. And so what's going on within our classrooms, that's looking very good. In fact, they were in and out of the high school just a matter of days, and got that completed. I mean, it was massive. I think Wade was up there with me one afternoon, and we went to look at that. It was a Sunday afternoon or something. We went, it was late afternoon, we went to ball practice, and we saw the old lights versus the new lights, and there's, man, that's no comparison. I mean, it's just really, really good. And all of our students throughout the county experienced that with the ball tournaments this past week. So the lighting has just made all the difference in the world there. The same thing at Woodbury Grammar, that the lighting is done. So here is where we're at. There is some outdoor lighting that they're waiting for the parts right now at the Woodbury Grammar parking lot. Those are our lights. They're not Middle Tennessee Electric lights. Those are our lights. And since they're our lights, then we have to maintain those lights. And so we're scheduled to be replaced. The lighting at the baseball field, King County High School baseball field, will be done the first week of April, we believe now. There's been some delays with some of those parts coming in from where they get their parts from. So that's going to be delayed till that April the 5th. We thought it was going to be the last 2 weeks of March, but there's been another delay. So that will be done the week of April 5. It'll take about 3 days, they say, probably for that to be done. We'll have to dodge your baseball games there, whatever we call them, will work with us on that. On getting that done, we may get part of them on, and they play the ball game, and then turn right around there the next morning. Hopefully we're going to have good weather that week. So there's where we're at on the EESI. But this budget resolution has to do with the EESI. And then I'll take that over to the commission meeting on April, look at the meeting in April the 3rd is the county commission meeting where this budget resolution will be submitted. See Douglas also, if you have any questions, we could get Douglas done right. But pretty well routine budget amendment.
Okay. Discuss extension of FFCRA CCBE policy 5.3051.
Okay, if you look at budget policy number 5.3051 FFCRA, I just want to change one line on line number 3. I'd like to change the March 30th that this is supposed to sunset to May 31st. That would get us toward the end of school. And if we do have any COVID cases, then they would be treated just like anybody else has been treated this entire year. And hopefully the sunsets on May the 31st, but we'll deal with that see how COVID is in August, and then I may come back to you and say, let's move this to another date. But as of right now, everybody will be treated the same for the entire year, and that's the only fair thing to do, in my opinion. Probably a lot of people too. So.
This wouldn't affect summer school, right?
Not at all. I know, but all this is for your personnel. If they want to teach summer school, then they're applying. Their teachers will apply to teach for that. So that will not have anything to do with that. So we're good there.
Okay, review policies 5.400 through 5.803, personnel.
Okay, if you're doing personnel part 2, and that's from 5.305, basically, or 5.400, excuse me, employee health practices, all the way down to 5.803 on personnel. And again, you've got employee health practices, grievances, employee rights and responsibilities. That's, to me, that's a very important section. If you've not read through that, go through and read those sections. Very important stuff there. On employee rights and responsibility, temporary personnel, if we have to have interim personnel substitutes, that's where that's at. And then last but certainly not least of these policies is the 4 policies dealing with my office as the director of schools. And so that will be one that you really look at the duties of that and see the duties of these of the office of director of schools. And it's very sobering to me. I go back and periodically read those, and it's very sobering to you got one person that is doing all of those things. Any questions about those? And then again, you are reviewing that, saying that you went back through and you reviewed these policies. I think most of you are used to that now.
Okay, moving on. Looking at another policy, revised CCBE 5.501.
Mr. Chairman, when I was reviewing the policy for this review, when I was reviewing them, I found a policy 5.501 hadn't been touched since 06, and it's got the wrong people on the complaint managers. And every building has a complaint manager. Okay, they also have a Title IX coordinator, but they also have a male and a female complaint manager, every school. For the district, we can see our female complaint manager is in this room, Ms. Bonnie, the supervisor of attendance, /CSH, Corday School Health. And then the male complaint manager is Mr. Brian Cofer, the supervisor of technology. All this does, and I did get the latest one from TSBA and I reviewed it. And basically the only thing they have changed was appointing the complaint managers. And that's all you will be doing is going through there. You can see the differences, the proposed new. You've got the old one, the current one, I should say, the current policy. And then you have the proposed policy. Very similar, not much that's different. If you'll notice on line 24 and 25, it says each school has I'm asking for this to be inserted. Each school has a male and female complaint manager, and the district complaint managers are, and you see those listed down there, female and male. And I changed their phone numbers or revised their phone numbers. So basically this is a housekeeping deal. But our policy, just about a exact mirror of the TSBA policy, which you see in the proposed new. And what that does is update those acts that you see, those legal references and those cross references.
Is it kind of common for the male to be under the technology supervisor?
Well, it is because he's the only other male I have in this of supervisors in the district.
My question is, who do I complain to?
So it's under technology, but he's the only other male, unless Mr. Ricky Arnold. That would be an interesting.
The males may have a case.
That would be an interesting. We're going to
More
Mr.
balanced
Arnold.
employment
Well,
without trouble.
that's true.
Okay.
So that's why it's the supervisor of technology.
Well, I
Because
saw it, that was pretty
now,
bad.
but that might change if Mr. Comfort retires or whatever. I'd have to.
Does Mr. Coker, does he want that job?
He's got it.
I don't think I was ever asking.
He's somewhat of a dictator.
But it's a default. It's what it is. That is, but before it was Mr. W.T. Todd. That's who did it. That's how long this policy has been
Been a while.
around. So, but there they are. And so why do we have to have a district complaint if there's one in every school? It's because if there's a complaint from this office or, on a district level, is why we have to do that.
All right, moving on, amend policy number 1.700 and approve 5.100 as recommended by Tennessee Board.
All right, this one here,
State board.
this comes from TSBA, Mr. Chairman, and you can see that the explanation of what I've done on any policy change. You will see TSBA stand on that, and it gives your, on that first page, and then it goes on to the second page, why they've done this. Well, we've had to change it because the General Assembly passed legislation to do this. Okay, and then view model, you can see model policy 1.700, what we have currently, and then what TSB is recommending. Again, very, very similar in what they're recommending, but we have made a change due to diversity, and TSBA, since this is legislation now that has occurred, that our goals and district goals and strategies to implement them would be ideally to present to the board for a vote after after first being developed by the director and the superintendent staff. These goals must be submitted to the Tennessee Department of Education for the 21-22 school year, and the Department of Ed has stated it will provide samples and other recommendations. So this is very similar to what you've been doing anyway with our mission statement, our vision, and our goals that we have there. And you're doing strategic planning. Every budget meeting's been a strategic planning meeting too. So we know the goals, and that's stated in our mission and vision, on our mission, vision, and goals statement. So you know those, and here they are replicated here. And then there's the proposed new policy there. Now, 5.100, that's 1.7. 5.100 are personnel goals that we do not have a current policy at all on this. So this is TSBA's recommendation, and they put that line 6 there to set number 3 to set goals for educator diversity that take into consideration the diversity of the student population. And we do have a diverse population, but it is mainly, when you look into matters of race, we do not have a lot of minorities here in our county, but those that we do, we will definitely want to offer them as much as anybody else. Any questions there?
Okay, to review interscholastic athletics policy number 4.301.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I brought that at your request. So I have that. Particularly, I think you want to look at the last line on these, line 2 and 3 on the second page. Homeschool students wishing to try out for elementary athletics shall comply with TSSAA Article 2, Section 225 bylaws. Look on the interscholastic athletics board policy, second page. You see it right there at the top there. It's only sentence on page 2. And in the past, this was done, if you look back, issue date was April the 9th of 15. Now, this was originally issued on 12/8/11 and then was revised. And what I was looking at, this was what was revised, was what you see, is the last sentence was what was revised in 2015. There's always a story to every board policy. And this one, I think needs some work because we have added, since this was done in 15, we have added multiple sports at the middle grades level. Well, we're not a part of the Tennessee Middle School Association. TSSAA has a middle school association, and we looked into doing that, but it was very cost prohibitive because every one of our elementary schools would have to pay the $700 and some odd to be a member of it. And so I have put on the back, he said, well, what are the TSSAA Article 2, Section 25 bylaws? And here they are for your viewing pleasure. Here is the TSSAA, you've got those. And you've also got the TMSAA. The TMSAA same, which is a mirror copy of the TSSAA, since it's a TSSAA is a parent organization of the Tennessee Middle School Association. So there you have it. This has been, it's tedious. You have to look at that. This has been looked at in the past by former administration and my own. If you look at number 5 under the homeschool rules, it's on page 22. You look at number 5, the homeschool student must provide proof of liability insurance coverage, which names the TSSAA as an insured party, or the administration schools must submit to the TSSAA a copy of the TSSAA indemnity form. Well, the indemnity is basically to say that we're not going to sue TSSAA. All right. Now, the problem results with our middle grades program is that we're not a member of TSSAA. So people have asked, well, why can't you do the indemnity form? Well, we're not members at the middle grades. We're not members of the TMSSAA. We're just not. We may be at some point in the future, but we're not now. So I'm just saying, for the homeschool rules, it's really a gray area, and I have to be the interpreter of that gray area. And in doing that, I think, well, they're not sanctioned. We know they're not sanctioned, quote, by the Tennessee Middle School Association. We're not sanctioned, but yet we are playing. And we are allowing play. They're representing Cannon County schools, and they also are utilizing our fields. No matter the sport, they're utilizing, and they're under our name. And so by doing so, that's where these are the rules. And I think it is time that we looked at them closer, and particularly at the middle grades. High school, you're a member of TSSAA, doesn't apply. But as to the elementary athletics and to the middle grades athletics, I think they need to be, Mr. Chairman, I think they need to be spelled out. You have your middle grades, and then you have your elementary rules. If they wanted to, homeschool wanted to play an elementary basketball is the only subject that, or only sport that we're offering in cheerleading, is the only thing we offer at those grades until you get in the middle grades, and then we allow the middle grades program. I have asked Mr. Jennings to be here tonight to try to give you some guidance upon the indemnity part of that. That's his wheelhouse, not mine. And I think we need to hear from Mr. Jennings at least on part of that. So, Mr. Chairman, you'll say, okay, I've done my part.
Are you ready for me?
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, we will hear.
Okay, these things, I never can really get used to what I'm doing here. The indemnity agreement is only as good as the person who signs that. And what I mean by that is their financial backing. You know, it's a nice thing to substitute for an insurance policy, but it certainly doesn't have the financial clout of a whatever it is you're requiring, $1 million policy or whatever, because then you're protected from that. And my job, of course, and part of my job in representing you folks is to make sure that I look out for potential liability issues and that type of thing. At this point in time, I don't recommend going to the indemnity. I would stay with your requirement of providing homeowners insurance with the additional insured on there. But again, I'm going to be overly cautious because I think that's what you want me to do. And you know, an indemnity agreement is just not as good as an insurance policy from a approved insurance company.
And Mike, you might want to explain to some people what is an indemnity agreement in the first place?
Well, indemnity agreement is basically, if anything goes wrong, I'll be responsible for it. And that sounds real good as far as it goes, but if the being responsible winds up being $500,000 for some type of damage to somebody or injury to somebody or whatever, then that's why I say it's only as good as the people signing it. And I don't know of too many people that could indemnify a claim like that. That's why we have insurance companies. That's why we as a school system carry insurance. And that's why probably most everybody in that room carries their own personal insurance to make sure they're covered in situations like that. It would be great to sign an indemnity agreement and a heck of a lot cheaper, but your potential exposure is a lot more personally.
And I don't even cover it. That's just something ain't gonna say who done was away.
Exactly.
That they're not even a part of.
Did you hear that, Mike?
I didn't hear that. No, sir.
Nick, say it a little louder for Mr. Jones.
I said, and that, if I'm reading this right, I've been doing some studying, the indemnity agreement don't even cover the Cannon County schools. That just covers TSSAA, and we're not even a part of the TSSAA in the middle school grade. So
And,
really,
and that's correct. And what I would respond to that is if there is a situation or an incident, for lack of a better term, a good plaintiff's lawyer is going to sue everybody involved.
right.
And if you don't have that liability insurance from the homeschool parent, whatever, then they're going to look for who's got the deep pockets, and who has the deep pocket. That would be the Cannon County Board of Education through your insurance policy. So that provides you an extra level of protection before it gets to you. Now, what you do is a policy decision. I'm not trying to dictate policy for you. I'm just trying to give you the options of the differences between indemnification and insurance, and probably everybody in there already knew that anyway, but the policy decision, of course, is yours, and I'm not making a recommendation on that. It wouldn't be my place to do that.
And again, this is to try out. It's what your policy says, Mr. Chairman. Homeschool students wishing to try out for elementary athletics shall comply with TSSAA Article 2, Section 25 bylaws. Let's say try out. Okay, but you got to follow the rules, and the rules are August 1. If you look at the minimum eligibility requirements, you say, what does it say there? Well, they've got to meet those academic requirements. And then on August 1, it says the student must notify the director of schools or head of the school, private school, by August 1 of the current school year. You have to notify me by August 1, the director or whoever the director of school is. And then by August the 15th of the school year, the parent or guardian must make application for participation in athletics to the principal of the member school in which the homeschool athlete wishes to try out and possibly participate. Now, this is a problem when you're dealing with middle grade sports, because which principal are they going to? If you're following the rules here, which principal? And again, this was done before the advent of middle grades basketball or middle grades softball or middle grades baseball or track team or middle grades cross country. All of that was done pre those. So even if you're going to go by that, then you're going to have to let the director of schools know in writing, and you're going to have to also let the principal know. Well, who's the principal of middle grades?
I say you just go to the district you're in, because you already got middle school football. That's all kids down here to the school, so the principals know. So I mean, if you live in West Side, I think you ought to go talk to Miss Karen, and, you know.
You need to get your athletic director involved.
That's what I was thinking too,
Yeah.
is get your
I've
athletic
been looking at
director
this
in.
for, I don't know how many days.
I do have, when I first came into office, I did appoint Mr. Roger Haley to be the middle grade sports coordinator. And he coordinates all things middle grades, except, basketball. But, congratulations, Mr. Haley, while I'm talking. I can say that. Don't y'all get mad at me for these other districts. I'm still West Side Eagle at heart in a lot of ways. But let me just tell y'all this, that Roger has done a good job about knowing what the rules are. But then again, we need to have something in writing for those homeschool parents, particularly at the middle grades, if they, and you know, we're here with those. Bonnie will tell you, she coordinates homeschool, and it is a pain, period, capital P. I think she would agree with that. I mean, it's just that we're here. And I've talked to several homeschool parents, and some were not even aware of that. We're going to have to do some education with those middle grades coaches. And, you know, I think the principals know when a homeschooler comes to them for elementary basketball. The elementary is not the problem. The problem is these middle grades, because I say that's not the problem. It is, you know, it may be coming up to be one, but the principals know what to do there. And they've been trained, they know what to do. Whereas on these middle grades, they do not. They say, well, who do I apply? Which principal do I go to? With these rules. So it's up to the board what the board wants to do to change these, but they do need to be worked on. And rapidly, because you're gonna have,
I
you
see
may
a
have.
lot of places that needs to be worked on, and it needs to be more clear, and everybody be on the same page.
There you go.
And that's why I've been looking at it, what in here doesn't explain enough. So what we've got high school, we've got middle school, we've got elementary.
3 different entities.
So the elementary has their own policy for basketball, which really needs to be looked at too. I think some of the wording in there should be better. That's just my opinion.
And
Make it more clear.
on the elementary basketball, that's where principals have come to an agreement, you know, years ago, when they run the elementary basketball program, our principals do, as part of that. So, yeah, I agree with you, Mr. Chairman. I do believe that they need to be revised and looked at too.
Just like line 3 basketball says that the kids can get in that's not playing for $4. That's still being done,
I'd have to ask principals that.
you know?
Let's see, Miss Karen King is on
That
with us,
protocol.
and Stephanie
That's
Alexander.
not called, I mean, that's just their
That's their
procedures.
policy.
That's your-
Here I am.
Tell
What
me.
was your question?
Hey, Miss Karen, on your basketball rules, number 3, admission shall be $4 for all people school age and above for regular season, $5 for tournaments. Mr. McMackins, is that wanting to know, is that still the cost on that? Is it $4?
It is not. It is not. It's 5, and it's been 5 for a couple of years. I don't know when that was changed. I think we changed that as a principal group, and I guess it didn't get changed in policy. I'll tell you why, and we probably need to look at that again. Referees went up is the reason we changed that, and referees went up again this year, even with COVID and us having less gate money. That referees still went up this year, so that may be something we have to look at for next year.
What are you paying them?
$80 a piece, so $40 a game. So it costs us $160 for referees out of our gate money.
I'm getting old. That was $25. I'm getting old, Karen. I remember that one. I think I paid
When I-
$25.
When I first went to Westside, it was 70, and then it went up to 75. And I think that's the year that we changed the admission price to $5. And then this year's the first year that it's been 80. And we had another expense, which has nothing to do with admission other than maybe looking at the tournament. But I had never paid for Ken to set up referees for our tournament. That just kind of came with all of us pay him to do that for us. And this year I saw in our budget that he had asked Melinda to pay to schedule referees for the tournament. So we may have to look at tournament entry fees as well.
Also, I noticed on line 4 practice that there needs to be some work on that, because once again, we've got a deadline there set for physicals and concussion and cardiac arrest letters, but we have nothing in there about homeschoolers. And I know at least one homeschooler this year played the whole season without insurance. That was a liability to us
Absolutely.
as a school system. He'd been hurt in one of these small gyms, hit the back wall, broke his neck. Guess what?
And I guess we assumed because homeschool kind of has its own policy or its own set of rules that was covered in that we did not put that in that, but maybe we need to say see the homeschool policy, because the homeschool policy has its own set of complete rules.
Well,
I wasn't gonna say anything, but I've had to deal with this policy for since 2015. And in the past, they have had to meet the August 1 deadline, or they did not play.
exactly.
I have had to tell kids that they couldn't play sports. And that's devastating to have to tell a child that. We've had, in the past, we've had a couple of people that somehow or another, they participated in summer practice. They just walked on and participated, but they didn't turn that letter in. And when it got time to send something in to TSSAA, they could not participate because they had not met the August 1 deadline. And that's hard to tell a family that their child can't play. I'm all for wanting kids to play, but I'm also here to protect the board. And I just hope that whatever y'all decide to do, that there's one person that's overseen, which I think should be an athletic director, since they have their hands on all sports that they're under, like the athletic director at the high school, and then the athletic director for the elementary and middle school program. I'll put it on the homeschool webpage. I have the TSSAA bylaws there. They're there for homeschool parents to see, but often they're, with umbrella schools, so they never come through my office. And so I think that's what we're getting into. Now that umbrella school, children are playing, which is fine. I just want them to be covered. I think it's just only fair that everybody's treated the same way.
And I have no idea like who you guys are talking about, because I know I did not have homeschoolers play at Westside this year, but I've had 2 play at Westside in the past, and we don't have an athletic director for all of elementary school. That's a principal board that we, come together and look at that. But I mean, that was always, once this was passed, I was the one that made sure, that they had contacted me in time, that the papers were signed in time, or they didn't get to play. So I don't know, who you're like necessarily. And I don't want names. I don't want names, but I mean, that falls back on the principal a little bit,
We're not calling out an individual or individual school. I'm just saying my past experience. I've had to deal with that where someone missed the deadline. So I don't know the situation this year. I'm just saying that there is a deadline. If we're going to follow the TSSAA model, there is a deadline that you have to request to participate. And I think we need to get the message out. We are having more homeschool children wanting to participate.
At all levels,
At all levels. But I think we all need to be on the same page.
Exactly.
Because when you're the one that has to give someone the bad news, it's hard then when someone else gets to participate, because then I get those phone calls. So I don't feel
and
like
I don't know if Melinda is on here, but she's the one that's, I said we didn't have an athletic director, but she's over elementary basketball right now, which makes her want to quit daily, I think. But I don't know if she's on here, but that might be something we need to talk about as a principal group and just make sure, because we have some new principals, and it's possible that just got lost in translation somewhere, that, those of us that have been around just assumed everybody knew that. So it very well just could be that, maybe it just got lost in translation. So maybe we need to bring that to the table with the principals to just make sure that if they've got a homeschooler playing on their team, that they've crossed their T's and dotted their I's, because we don't want to be sued. I don't know if our school could be sued, but we don't want to be sued as administrators, and we certainly don't want the board to be sued because of something we failed to do. So, I feel like I speak for every principal here. We want to be very, aware of what's going on and make sure the board's covered and not at fault from our actions.
And I think what we need to do is look at the elementary basketball policies and make sure that you've gone through those as a principal meeting or district leadership meeting. You go through those, and there's what you do into changing those things that need to be changed.
You know, to allude to Miss Bonnie, to get everybody on the same page, it needs to be put on a page. And that's the problem that we've had through the years, that we have policies or ideals, or somebody's come to a conclusion and it doesn't get written down. And I'm a stickler of it being written down.
And Mike, you might want to talk about how y'all face this in other counties that you represent on this, Mike. What have you seen, and what other school systems that you dealt with are doing?
Honestly, Mr. Director, I've never looked at that with the other systems, but I'm going to. I was sitting here making a mental note to myself that I need to do that. And I've heard a lot of good things said here tonight. Excuse me. You obviously need to have a policy, as the gentleman said, but you also got to educate everybody on what it is and make it uniform across your elementary schools and middle schools. And I know I'm preaching to the choir there, but I will look at that from the other districts that I've represented or have represented, and offer you my thoughts on that. I'll send you an email on that.
Okay, thank you. I know there's some districts that do not allow any homeschool participation at their middle and elementary school levels. Any. Talked to a fellow director the other day about that. That doesn't allow
Middle schools
any at all.
probably, if they belong to the middle school association, they probably have to follow that.
That's why I'm saying, if you belong to Mike, if you belong to the Tennessee Middle Schools Association, you have to go by their homeschool, this section 25, just like you were in high school then, is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
And if you violate that at the high school level, you can be ineligible.
Correct.
And so TSSAA monitors that that's a monitoring tool. The problem is at the elementary, because we need someone to monitor it.
When does homeschool have to be turned in?
According to this policy, they
Well,
have
I'm not talking about just the
homeschool
sport,
paperwork,
yeah.
they can turn homeschool paperwork in at any time.
They turned in tomorrow. And we have had them turn them in May for the last few.
And we've had kids that turn in homeschool paperwork in October and want to participate in sports, and I've had to tell them they missed the deadline and they had to wait to the next year, and they did.
And something else we've got to think, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Something we got to think about is August 15th, some people, some sports are already kicked in. They've already started doing some kind of conditioning, running, practice in some form, official, unofficial. And those kids, if they haven't signed up yet and got their insurance form in, then they're not covered. So we've got to come up with something that at the end of the school year, maybe we should say when school ends and before any practice starts or any tryout, first tryout, and then comes practice.
Right.
Has to be, the school board has to be notified that you.
And those middle grades will do that pretty quick, depending on the sport, on middle grades. Depending on the sport, they may do a spring, tryout right there. That's like what you're saying toward the end of school week. And then again, they might do another one, later in the year. But now the elementary basketball policy does say August 15, and that's the deadline to turn in player physicals, concussion, and cardiac arrest letters.
That's just for basketball.
That's correct. That's not
And
for.
then what needs to be put in that line, if you're on school, you got to get that insurance policy in the same time.
That's correct. By August 15th.
So we need to put that wording in there. And also, we had something come up this year too, is if you're not enrolled in our system, you cannot play in our system. And that's not in our policy anywhere that I could find. And it's just a no-brainer.
Right.
But like I said, we need it on paper.
But yet we faced that issue.
We faced it. And it just makes sense that you wouldn't do that. You would not want to open up your sports teams to every county around you to come in and play on your sports team.
Mr. Curtis, this is Karen. Do we ever put those rules in the paper? I mean, maybe like July, we probably need to put like some kind of big thing in there, like.
Well, I don't even know if the elementary basketball policies are on our website. I mean, I don't even think that they're anywhere on our website at all.
Well, aren't they in here?
They should be. They've just never been, we just never had a real reason for them to be placed in board policy itself, because that's an administrative policy that we go by, not a school board policy. But then you can reference that in your,
School board
Whatever it is,
approved
you-
it, so you think we approved it,
it's
it'll be in
in-
our book.
it's how to be in the book. I agree.
In May, I'm assuming they have to turn in paperwork to you.
They turn in attendance calendars is all at the end of the school year. That's only independent. If they're umbrella schools, I never get anything from them. I don't have, I mean, that's the law.
Smith Grove, I'm just using them for.
The
Are
only
they an
thing-
umbrella school?
They are an umbrella school, and the only thing that Smith Grove will get, or Cannon Christian Academy will give to me is by September 30th, they have to produce a roll of students. That's the law. I'm telling you, homeschool law is very vague. It's kind of out there. But now they do have, bylaws and whatever that they go by. So they're
Okay,
easy to Google it, and I have to learn that way.
Can you explain, because it's been asked to me multiple times. Why do our kids go to school free and homeschool pays, and we're making them get an insurance policy? Can you explain that?
So say that again.
Since my kid goes to Woodland Elementary, I don't pay for him to go there.
Right.
But homeschool has to pay the county or the school board for them to homeschool their child, correct?
No.
No.
They don't pay us to homeschool it. They pay the
So they're not
entity.
giving. the
They're not
county
giving
no
us any money at all, no.
No.
Like, we lose money for every student that goes to homeschool.
Well, I knew that.
Yeah. No, they're paying whatever school they're going to. If there's an umbrella school, they're paying that entity the money. If it's
So-
independent, they're not paying anyone. They're doing it themselves.
So Ms. Bond, does anybody at homeschool have to be up under a school system, a register with a school system?
No. Well, they have to notify the school system. Yes, there is a
Okay,
law.
so they have
But
to
I will
notify
tell- but
you.
I will tell you, I'm gonna tell you right now, that up until last year, it was very, very difficult to get rolls from certain umbrella schools. Not those in the county. I'm not saying, they're very good about giving me the information. But there's other umbrella schools out there that some of our parents use. I want to name one, but I won't. Who it's like pulling teeth to get rolls from them. And they wait to the last minute, and then they write a letter saying, we're only doing this because the law has changed last year, I believe, and it's forcing us to give you this information. I'm telling you, it's really, really difficult. So,
So why do you need that? Tell me why you need that information,
because I have to report homeschool student numbers to the state.
even though they haven't come in and officially registered with you.
But they don't have to register with me unless they're independent students.
If they're independent.
If
they're
they
supposed to-
register with an umbrella school, the umbrella school takes care of that. They send me a roll of names.
Okay.
That's all I get
If they're from Cannon County.
if they're from Cannon
That's what
County.
you're- If they're from Cannon County.
If they're from Cannon County, I don't get anything else. They don't give me grades. They don't give me attendance. They don't give me anything.
Well, see, we should not even be accepted for sports, anybody playing sports that hasn't registered with you. Or let the identity that they're registered under hasn't told you that
Well,
they
that's gonna
exist.
really muddy the waters.
Well,
I mean,
what,
I understand. Yes,
if
yes.
you're not willing to come and say,
But the problem with that, the problem I see with that is the deadline for the umbrella school
Can be later.
is
It can be
September probably sometime.
But if they come and they say to the director of schools, I want to participate by August 1,
yeah,
then we know.
Yeah.
And they tell us they're either umbrella or they filed independent paperwork with me. We know that. It's just that,
And that has to take place, for anybody listening, that has to take place every year,
independent.
independent. If you're, I'm
Or
talking
sports,
about
every
the
year.
sports, on the sports, it has to take place every single year. It's just not automatic. Well, I made the team and hey, I made the team on, let's say it was at the end of the school year, you made the team for the next year. Well, hey, that doesn't mean that you've informed the director. It doesn't mean that you've informed the principal, and it doesn't mean that you've informed or you paid the insurance bill for that year.
And we've had several families to follow the procedure year after year. You know, every now, I mean, you know, it just happens, you know. I do think that getting one person that's monitoring that and that name is on the website and it's published that this is who you go to
Right.
would make this better instead of, well, we might need to go to the person who does homeschool for the county, or we might need to go to the principal, or we might need to do this. It needs to be one person. But I'm already a complaint manager, so please don't send it to me.
So the instructions for homeschool is on our website.
Yes,
So we just need to include
the athletic portion
the
of that.
athletic portion, they're very clear and understand.
And especially
What our
if you're,
policies are,
especially if
when
you're
we
saying
decide what
what
they are.
grade level you are, because it is different at each level.
And right now it's
Elementary.
on there. I just had the TSSAA.
And Bonnie's done a good job under difficult circumstances many times because of her role as the homeschool person that you report to. But there again, if you're going to go by TSSAA guidelines, here are the guidelines, but you make your own guidelines as long as they're legal. And Mr. Jennings looks at that, you know, you can make your own guidelines for homeschooling. But they know the law very well. Homeschoolers know, parents know the law incredibly well. Or many do, most do.
I've got one other issue that has bugged me for years. And I tried to approach some person one time and about it and got brushed off. And so I'm gonna bring it up to you guys. As far as I know, unless Mr. Nichols can tell me different, or the athletic director, we do not have a uniform grade policy for playing sports at Cannon County High School. When I approached the person one time about this, he told me he wasn't going to set the policy, or he wasn't going to suggest anything. And he wasn't going to tell the coaches what grades to take or not take. I think every student, when they go to play sports, should know that if I play softball, I know what school policy is for me to play softball.
Right.
I know what grades I got to maintain. If I go play basketball in the fall and I've played softball in the spring, they still know what's required of them academically to play. Because sports is really a privilege, not something that we're guaranteed. So I know for sure that coaches have used that one way or the other. And that some kids pass, we need to be passing, you gotta play if they failing. So we need a policy saying, okay, we're gonna, well, I don't know what that policy is, y'all have to help me on it. What you want to say.
Under grading, we do have uniform policy across grading, but not when it deals with athletics.
Right.
I don't believe that's in.
Are we gonna let,
policy,
a student play with an F or 2 Fs or 3 Fs? Or,
That's been an individual principal's decision over the years. I know at the elementary level it is.
in high school, it's been the coach's decision.
I've asked Mr. Nichols, he caught back off. I've asked him to pop back on if he can, to answer that question. That's a great question. But that's one that TSSAA has policies as regarding academics. But I think they leave the enforcement of that to the individual
In
school.
fact, the grade schools, it has to be the 5 major subjects. You cannot fail any of the 5 major subjects. That's not PE.
And that's in the basketball rule. That is in the basketball rules,
Exactly.
where it says,
We
I
need
don't
to-
think the
We
elementary.
need to apply that to middle school since they are,
Exactly.
have the same policy.
And then,
And then
for
even
those
for the high
sports
school.
though, you're gonna have them spread out on all 6 elementary schools. That those middle grade students, 6th and 8th graders, will be spread out among those that they know what the principal also knows that policy, that, and the coach of that
That goes
particular.
back to the coaches, like Ms. Bonnie said, somebody responsible. The coach should be responsible for the grades and the principal for the individual students also. He should be responsible for his team.
Well, while you're on that, some stuff that got brought up in earlier the basketball season on player eligibility in the grammar schools. The way I'm understanding it, and I don't see it in here, is that once that kid has failed a class, according to this policy right here on the grammar school, but our policy, principals come up with, they're not allowed to practice nor play. But now I know some of the kids that were failing was practicing, but they weren't even allowed in the gym. Now, I don't understand that. How can we legally keep somebody out of a gym because of their grades?
You mean practicing with a team?
No, they can't even come to the game.
Attending a sporting.
Oh, no.
So how can you legally,
No, I don't.
how can you legally keep a minor out of a game that he is wanting to come participate in? And we're trying to keep kids off the streets, but yet we're saying, oh no, you've got an F in this class and you can't even come.
No, matter of fact, I'll be sitting on the bench for the rest of the team.
That's where I was going. They should still be practicing and sitting on the bench with their uniform on and not playing.
Exactly.
And Derek, this is Karen King. If I could like speak to that, one of the reasons that we all agreed for them not to come to practice is the fact that if they're spending 2 hours an afternoon practicing and they are pulling Fs, then it's entirely possible that they need that time and it's too much on them to do both. Now, my kids are allowed to come to the game, but they don't sit on the bench. Now, I've had some kids that are have been disciplined that sit on the bench. And if a child has out of school suspension, they're not allowed to come to any games. But I'm not aware, and you may know this because I only take care of Westside, but at Westside, we don't deny them the right to come to the game and watch. As a matter of fact, I want them there. But they are not denied access to come sit at the game at all. But they are denied access to practice so that they can have that extra 2 hours a day to work on their grades.
Ms. Karen, can I ask you, and I'm meaning this, if I was failing and you kicked me off the basketball team for failing, I'm not gonna go home and study for 2 hours. Now, I don't mean that, and I understand where you're coming from completely, but some of these kids that are failing, it's more than home life, and all they've got is basketball.
And I will tell you, Coach Haley is number one right behind you on that, and so am I. We have students on our team simply because we know that's the only thing that they have. And we make every effort, like every time progress reports go out, our teachers report to us if our ball players or our cheerleaders have Fs on progress reports so that we don't have that problem with them when real, like, and I mean, clearly it's all real grades, but when the actual grade report goes out, you know what I'm saying? That's what takes them off the ball team. So they get grade reports every 3 weeks. And if they have Fs, we know that. So we try to put every support in place to make sure, and it's harder to get an F at our school than it is an A. I'm just going to tell you, because we try to do everything we can to keep that from happening. And we don't put extra, I mean, we're not giving favors to our ball players, but especially those kids that we know environment plays a part in that. We do everything we can to make sure that those kids do not pull Fs because we want them to be on our ball team. But you know what? Some kids just, you do a whole lot for them, and kind of like what you were saying before, you know, in a couple board meetings before, sometimes you just have to let life hit them. And we let that happen too. If we put everything in place and they're not pulling their part, then we just let life hit them.
Well, and something y'all principals may look back at this, if y'all review this policy, is if they're dedicated to the team and they're failing, instead of missing practice, they're doing their homework and studying at the gym.
Or somewhere. in the-
Well, and honestly, that's not a bad idea. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to that.
I know all the grammar, as far as I know, some of the grammar schools have the offices for the PE teachers right there in the gym. So, I mean, they could sit in the office and do their homework, and maybe that would say, oh, hey, man, my team's out there on the floor practicing, and if I'd done this in the first place, you know.
I'd be out there with them.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would teach them more than just telling them they can't come at all. That was just my thought.
And that's something we can bring back to the table and discuss as a principal group. I'd actually text some other principals. Some of them are still with parents at parent-teacher conference. And some of them are just now getting in. So I've told them if they can log on, go ahead. But I mean, that's something we can come back to the table and discuss about that. I don't think I would be okay with them full on coming back to practice if they still had Fs. But if they, you know, if they wanted to come back to practice and do their homework in a place where somebody would know they were doing it, or they needed that place to do that, I'm not opposed to that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They'd be required to be there, but they'd be required to do their homework or studying or catching up.
Okay, Mr. Jennings needs to leave, or is there any other need for him? Okay, thank you, Mr. Jennings. I appreciate you being there, Mike. And
Yeah, you can text me if you need me or whatever. Otherwise, I'm going back to house arrest on this COVID stuff,
okay.
waiting on my results. So not.
Stay quarantined. Stay quarantined.
Yep,
Okay,
thanks.
Mr. Nichols is with us back, Mr. McMacken. So, Mr. Nichols, if you'll unmute, Mr. McMacken has a question for you.
Yes, sir.
What is our present overall policy on grades at the high school, making you eligible or not eligible to play?
TSSAA guidelines. I have those pulled up right here. To be eligible to participate in athletic contest during any school year, the student must earn 5 credits the preceding school year. If less than 24 credits are required. Or 6 credits the preceding school year if 24 or more credits are required. So they have to have passed 6 classes by the first day of the beginning of the school year. So first day is August 3rd or 4th, whatever day you start on. They have to have passed all those classes from that past spring semester.
Okay, so, but we don't have a policy in place going forward from that time.
Well, we followed TSSAA guidelines on that.
Well, I'm saying TSSAA guidelines does not take into account any following grade period.
No, does it follow on a grade period? No. However, my staff and I have looked at that for this upcoming school year, and we're going to have to address that. I've got, that's a huge concern. I have a problem with that, with a kid failing all their classes and or having a failing report card, so to speak, and then still being eligible to play. They could technically meet those guidelines, the year before and then do nothing. And I don't think that that's appropriate. That's not a good example for our students, our student athletes for CCHS.
According the minimum guidelines is TSSAA, correct?
I agree.
We can set your own guidelines of making more than just the minimum is for TSSAA.
My athletic director is supposed to be pulling all of the guidelines as far as, or not guidelines, excuse me, pulling the grades of all the students and supposed to be having meetings with them too.
Well, I'm curious that, and I'm talking about the past. You're fixing to find out. You're fixing to find out about the present is what he's going to find out. So I'm curious because in the past at Cannon County High School, individual coaches told kids they couldn't play.
Okay.
And we had no policy in place saying that.
Right.
The TSSAA policy was in place. So I don't know how everybody did that. And that's my point. We don't have anything on paper. And we need something on paper so everybody knows where everybody stands.
We will, as we move forward before this next school year, I will have you a policy in place, sir.
Thank you.
So technically the parents could have appealed that. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. Actually, the student.
I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to stand behind my coach.
Oh, I agree.
On that.
I'm saying legally, the parents could have appealed it to the school board that their kid could have played because we don't have it on paper is what I'm thinking.
Exactly.
Well, they could. I will have a policy for this high school that will go before you this summer. And y'all can vote on it or not vote on it or do what you choose to on that. But I mean, we've already looked at that and have kind of loosely addressed it, but we're going to address that before next school year on the eligibility of these students not passing their courses.
Very good. We need it.
I 100% agree with you. I'm glad that y'all have brought this up.
Yeah, I brought it up about 5 years ago.
Thank you. Mr.
Thank you,
Chairman.
Courtney. I appreciate it, Mr. Nichols.
Yes, sir.
On that. So Ray, on your, let's go back to the actual line item, if you will, on page 2 of 2. Homeschool students wishing to try out for elementary athletics shall comply with TWSAA Article 2, Section 25 bylaws. Now, above that, you've got the bylaws of Tennessee Secondary School Athletic Association shall regulate the operation and control of secondary athletics, which that's the high school. So now you talk about elementary. I would definitely go back and look and say, here is your elementary rules. Here are the middle school, the middle grades rules. We'll call them middle school, call them middle grades rules. That this is who you got to contact. And I would suggest looking at the one where it says the August 15th on the middle grades policy, that they inform the middle grade sports coordinator.
Yep.
And we'll list that who that, you don't have, we'll have that who is the middle grade sports coordinator. And we'll put that in part of that packet, that you contact this person and make sure that they know, and that the coach knows that you can try out. But that also says to that though, well, they had tryouts back last spring. The team's already done. Then there's probably going to be a need for fall tryouts if it's like a softball or baseball.
Well, softball, way I understand, the team was formed last fall. And that just ain't right. I mean, you got kids that can move in that have the right to at least try out. So
That's what I'm
so
saying.
every spring sport should have a spring tryout. Every fall sport should have a fall tryout. And every winter sport.
And that's where we need to get the guidelines for those middle grades coaches, that they know that too.
Yeah.
I agree certainly with that. But I was thinking, if you're gonna do that, you need to do the elementary and the middle grades as two separate things in board policy here.
We should have 3 sections covering those. Y'all look at it and see what you, look at the wording.
I've looked all over it. I've been like you guys.
There's a line here, I don't read it, I don't understand what this means. Is it every, so maybe Freddie can.
Okay, go ahead. What?
Mr. Curtis, transportation of teams to athletic games is approved by the board, provided the team school reimburses the board for mileage.
That is correct. That's what the rule, you're talking on the elementary policy, right?
No, this is.
Or which one are you looking at? Do you know what's the
So
way?
line, somewhere around line 89, first page of our policy.
Okay, of our policy. Let me just see, make your own. I see that. Line 8, transportation of teams to athletic game is approved by the board, provided the team school reimburses the board for mileage. Ms. Black, if you could unmute, then let's talk about transportation of athletics.
Yes, sir.
All right, you're on, Miss Lisa. Let's talk about that line that says transportation of teams to the athletic games is approved by the board, provided the team school reimburses the board for mileage. Now, we got new board members. I wish Letha was here, but Letha probably knows already. But talk to the board about those that can afford and those that can't afford.
So previously in the past, we would always charge every sport if they were taking a trip. And a few years ago, the board decided that was putting a lot of pressure on our teams and our sports because they were having to go out and constantly get fundraise or set up at the red lights and stuff to get money to pay for their sports. I was a cheerleading sponsor at one time, and I set up at the red lights to pay for the bus that I was going to drive. So it was it's just hard to do. So the board decided at that time that none of the minor sports, if they did not, like cheerleaders, because they don't collect any monies. And at the time, we weren't charging at the baseball field or the softball field. And of course, track doesn't collect any money for gate fees or anything. So those sports would not pay for their bus transportation or driver. And then last year when we or yeah, last summer, when we were looking at budgets, we decided that we had to make some adjustments and we had to charge, and that's when we began charging the minor sports. But since then, we haven't really taken any trips, so it's not really been a problem. Only thing that's went anywhere is football and basketball, so.
Am I wrong, but was a few years ago, there was not a stipulate gave to the teams actual money, a dollar amount to work with during the season?
We just said it was $1,200 that they got for free, just for travel.
Okay, so you're giving them $1,200 to travel.
No, we didn't give them cash. We just said you have $1,200 for
Yeah,
bus
I know.
use.
I mean,
Credit,
you
credit.
go on a trip,
Credit,
you
yes.
deduct it from that amount.
Yes,
So that's another complicated one. that you-
it is. It's really hard because like cheerleaders, and I'm sure Miss Jennifer can understand that they don't collect any money. It's all out of the parents' pocket for everything they do. They don't have any way to collect money, even though they're expected to be at all the games, football and basketball. So we felt like the least we could do was help provide transportation for them, but COVID hit and we really haven't been able to do too much with that, so.
Our cheerleaders got messed over bad this year.
But they're legitimately one of the sports that, and they are considered a sport, correct, Mr. Curtis?
Well, it depends on who you ask.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Got the kids in
Tonight-
double A.
We don't want to go there, Lisa. You're opening another big thing.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to.
NCAA recognizes it as an activity, but yet they want to regulate the activity.
Oh, well, anyway, they don't collect money or gate fees. And so the same thing with the baseball, that's over at the community center. So, you can't say who's coming to what game. So it just gets really difficult.
It does, and you've got the added thing of middle grade sports too, that adds to that. They pretty well have to raise their money to go to wherever they're going to go.
Right.
And as the advent of more sports comes along in the middle grades, I'm not advocating for that, but I'm saying as the advent of that, it will come along. Eventually,
Right.
the middle grades volleyball and middle grades soccer and middle grades this or that. You go not whatever you got to high school, you're going to have that in middle grades. So, Wade, did that answer your question about transportation on that? That depends on the sport.
Correct. Depends on the sport.
Okay. Anything else there, Mr. Chairman? So what do you?
The only thing I think on the homeschool, we just need to keep it the way we are to cover us as a system.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know if this can even be voted on, or need to be put on next month's agenda. But to get the elementary, the principals to redo this, look at this again,
On the basketball.
the basketball rules, and I think it needs to come before us, what they to do for approval.
I'd like to set this aside
Yeah.
So it
for the
just,
wording, because this needs to be reworded. We don't have time to do that.
yeah, and I say,
And
once
then
you
start-
you can table it,
I'd like
that's
to
the
table
option.
that.
Or you can just say, we want to deal with this before X date. Or you can table it to an April meeting, or you can, whatever you want to
Maybe
do.
they can get back with us.
And then they could get back with you for more information. And we'll talk about that in their district leadership meetings. So principals, y'all, I think just about all the principals are on now. So we'll bring this up at the next district leadership meeting and saying, okay, y'all principals get together and let's look at these, let's look at these rules. Maybe I'll take them out to lunch and then look at the rules or something. I can do some other stuff and give me recommendations from the principal.
Okay, we need to put this in, whatever they come up with, we need to put that in our policy.
Right. Right, but in the meantime, you've still got this rule in place that's not been changed.
Right.
That, and what I take it to mean the elementary rules, I would take that to mean also middle grades that's how I've been interpreting that.
We just need to
Those
work that way.
middle grade sports, yeah.
Wherever
Elementary
it's got-
athletics,
Kids that's double A, then we need to say also, the middle school policy. It's basically the same.
Melinda's in now, so she just said to admit her, so. So Melinda is also here, Mr. Chairman. She's the chair of the basketball program. Hello, Melinda, if you'll unmute there wherever you're at. I'm not seeing you on my screen, but there she is. Melinda, if you'll unmute there for just a second. You're the chairman of the basketball. I know y'all breathed a sigh of relief that basketball season is over.
Yes, sir.
Until BT tournament, right?
Yes, sir. I got about, 3 weeks.
So she's counting down. So Melinda, just remind us on the basketball rules. The board does want the principals to go back over those and adjust accordingly, particularly having to do with homeschoolers. And y'all can put that back under one of those other points. So that little homework for the principals to look at there.
Okay. What do you need us to adjust for homeschoolers?
Well, it just needs to be spelled out. What are the stipulations from TSSAA? August 1, letter to the director. August 15th, talk to the individual school parent, principal, to where they are zoned to. And then the $1 million liability policy has to be in hand before y'all
Yes.
begin your practices on August the 15th. So
Yes,
we just need to put that in there in y'all's basketball, in those basketball policies. Also, number 3,
Okay.
revised to $4, needs to go to $5. Wait, anything else I've missed there?
I think you may have an old copy because I think we have a set of rules that reflects that $5.
Okay.
I'll look, I'll find it. Yeah, I'm not at school, but I'll find it and let you know.
The one I'm looking at, approved by Principal Study Council, March 2nd, 2016.
Yeah, there's a newer one since that one because we did make an increase from $4 to $5.
Okay. But y'all, we'll look at that next BLM. We'll look at that briefly, and I meet with principals too, and we'll just talk basketball. How's that?
I would love nothing better.
Melinda, this is Derek. And before you got on, man, we talked about this earlier, and you can get with Miss Karen. I'd like the player eligibility to be relooked at for a failing student to see if maybe we can work something out. If you can talk to Miss Karen about that when you have your meeting, please.
Okay. She already have the details about it?
Yeah, we just talked about it. We spent a lot of
Okay.
time on it.
Sorry, I was coming from Auburn and I didn't want to log on because I would lose service. And then by the time I got over the hill and got situated, this is what time it is.
Oh, that's fine. No, that's fine. You can go back and listen to it if you want to, or you can
Okay.
talk to Miss Karen and she can.
Yeah, I'm still here, Melinda. I'll fill you in tomorrow.
Okay.
I know you want to talk basketball again.
I do. You
tomorrow.
know what I think I'll do? I think I'll just play this back tonight if it's available and just listen to it while I sleep.
It's not available tonight, so I can spare you this evening.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Thank you. I do that all the time, except I do it in my head instead of actually doing it. All right, Mr. Chairman, anything else on interscholastic athletics?
No, I'll make a motion to table it.
And then we'll look at that, and we'll look at that even closer. And then you come back with the next one, we'll you write it down and write your motion down, and then we'll go from there. And then we can talk principals and talk to Mr. Jennings and run it by him too.
All right, I yield to you, sir.
No director's comments tonight. We'll take a break here in a minute and jive up for budget and strategic planning, but you'll have your financial report, hopefully, if it's available. I think it will be. I'll give you a COVID-19 update on Thursday night. That's fluctuating. We've gone up, now we're going back down. So I'll give you the latest from Nurse Leslie. We've gone down as a county, then we went back up, and I think we're back down. So we're going back down as a county. So high school is where we've had the most activity. I'll put it that way. And we'll talk about that.
All right, I have no comment.
Okay, and so this meeting will conclude, and we'll be back on here in just a minute with the other set of directions for the board workshop. So at this time, we will close this meeting. And as soon as that, we get this recorded, then we will commence with your budget workshop. Everybody, I'm in meeting for all.
Buddy, have we